What did the baby do that warranted being drowned? One of the most horrible deaths, by the way, that you can endure. What did the baby do that warranted that? God had no other solution to rid the world of wickedness than to drown the people he created. Your God, Rob.
This God is the most powerful, most intelligent being in the universe, and he can't come up with anything better than I gotta drown a bunch of babies.
And your excuses for it are worse than the God who did it.
These three statements are once again proof why the atheists cannot think logically outside their blinders box. Being an atheist is like living in a house with no windows. They can't think outside their bigoted box, because if they do think logically, that will always point back to the very high probability that there's a God. I will refute each of these three statements, one at a time. 1. What did the baby do that warranted being drowned? This is easy to answer, because any argument that can be turned against itself ceases to have power of authority. I have a question for you bigoted atheists. What did the baby do that warranted being murdered every year by a bunch of loudmouth disrespectful feministic murder-supporting women? What did the baby do for that? Since you don't have the courtesy, or let alone the intelligence to answer or even acknowledge that question to be answered, I will answer yours, because I am a courteous logical thinking person. Why did God send the flood? To rid the world of wickedness because they were only evil before his eyes. Why did babies have to die? Are babies actually innocent? Only in the sense as in they don't have the knowledge of sin and what it is. But do they sin? Absolutely. Babies are born sinners and they do sin, see Psalms 58-3, Isaiah 48:8, 49-1. Does God know all things in his foreknowledge of the beginning and the end? Yes. Is he the beginning and the end? Yes. If he sees that child growing up to be a very wicked sinful person, then that child is no longer innocent because of his foreknowledge of the future. Therefore God is not guilty of murder or shedding innocent blood. We have no authority to kill babies by our choosing, because we are not perfect like God and we don't see all things like him. Do you know all things as God does? No. We are finite limited human beings. There are only two reasons why God allows babies to die. 1. God sees that child growing up into a very wicked person. No matter what he does to convert that person from their wicked lifestyle, they will not turn. At that point, God has the absolute right to end that person's life whenever he sees fit, when it's necessary. 2. To spare that child of future pain and torment in life. Do babies go to heaven when they die? Yes, because God cannot hold him accountable to sin they do not acknowledge or understand. Therefore did a lot of babies probably die in the flood? Probably. Would they all grow up to be evil people? Probably so. Which is why God told King Saul in 1 Samuel 15 to kill every man, woman and infant. Yes, God gave the commandment to kill babies, for that same reason. Don't you atheists dare point the finger at God, and blame him for something that you are advocating to be done among yourselves. You point at God and call him a murderer for killing babies in a flood, when you most likely advocate for these loudmouth feministic anti-God women to murder babies every year, just because they don't want them. God does not murder anybody, he always has a justified reason. You atheists are hypocrites. The next statement to refute. 2. God had no other solution to rid the world of wickedness than to drown the people he created. Of course not. Do you know what makes a good leader? Installing fear into your subjects, citizens in other words. Fear is the greatest motivator to obedience. Look at our country the way it is. If our government took every murderer, rapist, and child molester out of these prisons and put them all to death immediately, I guarantee you would see the crime rate fall pretty quick. People will be too afraid to step out of line and commit those crimes again. The death penalty is the best way to keep people in line under obedience to the law. God has more sense than any government on earth. They exercise injustice. God practices justice. Especially justice that will be repaid to every sinner who's ever lived at the final judgment. The last statement. 3. This God is the most powerful and most intelligent being in the universe. And he can't come up with anything better than, I got to drown a bunch of babies. The most powerful and intelligent being knows very well that death is the only way to exterminate sin and crime. If you look throughout the Old Testament, he had to use death many times to keep the children of Israel in obedience. All of these crimes would go down drastically if the death penalty was exercised more often. How are you atheists going to combat the crime rates in the United States? Sweet talks from spineless sissified counselors? Pampering and babying people in this stuck-up, arrogant, disrespectful young generation coming up? Practicing the Live and let live, motto in this decaying cancerous democracy? It doesn't work. What is your solution to the crime rates of murder, child molestation, rape, theft, etc.? You give no solution. Also, what are you going to do about these dumb students in these public schools? The decaying curriculums dumbing down everything and passing people that are just as stupid going out as they came in. Lowering the passing grades, causing the country's IQ levels to drop much more points, making our country look more stupid to many other countries in the world?
But if you talk to one of them about this, if you isolate one of them, you sit them down rationally, you talk to them about the low IQs and the dumb behavior and the bad decisions, right away they start talking about education. That's the big answer to everything. Education. They say we need more money for education. We need more books, more teachers, more classrooms, more schools. We need more testing for the kids. You say to them, well, you know, we've tried all of that and the kids still can't pass the test. So don't you worry about that. We're going to lower the passing grades. And that's what they do in a lot of these schools now. They lower the passing grades so more kids can pass. More kids pass, the school looks good, everybody's happy, the IQ of the country slips another 2 or 3 points, and pretty soon all you'll need to get into college is a pencil. Got a pencil? Get in there, it's physics. Then everyone wonders why 17 other countries graduate more scientists than we do. Education. Politicians know that word. They use it on you. No child left behind. No child left behind. Oh, really? Well, it wasn't long ago you were talking about giving kids a head start. Head start, left behind. Someone's losing ground here.
You have no solution to that either. You want to point fingers at the Christians, at least God believers, and criticize them, when your line of thinking is not helping anything at all. The atheist experience is not a productive, helpful, or even a logical one.